From the John DeVita Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Paranormal Radio with Bob Tresek on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich. So sit back and enjoy Paranormal Radio. And now, here is the king of Paranormal Radio, Mr. Bob Tresek.
Thank you, John. Thanks very much. I'm still the king. Look at that. I still have my king status. I haven't been demoted to prince yet. I'm still king of Paranormal Radio. Thank you, John. It's always a pleasure coming here to do these shows, and something that I enjoy very much. And thank you very much for the privilege of letting me do them here with you. I would just like to extend my thank you to the Summit Park District and for everybody that attended our trip that we had last Saturday, over this past weekend. We had a trip on the Columbian Exposition and H.H. Holmes and went around to some of the sites and stuff, and we ended off at Navy Pier and taking a ride on the Ferris wheel and having lunch at the pier there and that. And thanks to Mr. Ray Johnson and his Friends of the White City not-for-profit group for giving us a real nice tour over there at Jackson Park. Those tours they do free. They're free tours at Jackson Park, and it's all about the Columbian Exposition. So if you're a Columbian Exposition fan or you'd like to learn something about the Columbian Exposition, every Saturday at 11 o'clock in the morning, you show up at behind the Museum of Science and Industry over there in Jackson Park by the lagoon there, and they will give you a tour. Ray Johnson and his associate there, Louise McCurry, I believe is the lady's name, with the Jackson Park Advisory Board, and they will give you the tours of some sites and things that are still left from the Columbian Exposition. It's not really paranormal, but nonetheless, it's a very interesting and fascinating tour, and Ray and Louise are just fascinating. They have tons and tons of facts about the exposition and things, and you'll walk out of there as an expert about the Columbian Exposition. Tonight, I have with me someone that I've not had on the radio for some time. I have Miss Colleen Carroll with the All-Seeing Paranormal Team, or ASP for short, ASP. ASP is also one of those poisonous, venomous snakes, isn't it? But it's not a poisonous, venomous paranormal team that she's got. Colleen is kind of an expert in the field of paranormal. Does a lot of investigating and a lot of work on things and that, and she'll have some interesting stories to talk about. We have no problem carrying the conversation for an hour with Colleen. She will be our only guest tonight on Paranormal Radio, and if you have to have one, it's nice to have one that's a good one. Colleen, thank you so much for coming on Paranormal. Welcome to Paranormal Radio.
Bob, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Well, what do you want to talk about? Where do we start? Yeah.
Hey, should we talk about the paranormal?
Paranormal. Do you have anything coming up that you'd like to give us a plug-in for here? What's coming up with your team? And
we have a paranormal conference coming up in October 10th and 11th at Maureen Valley Community College.
So we've got time for that. That's in October. That never hurts to start advertising early for these things.
And we have a private investigation at a pub in the Berwyn-Cicero area coming up in June.
In June. So now, is this open to anybody that would like to come?
No,
or no, it's a closed
private
thing.
Investigation.
Private investigations, private thing, very quiet and that kind of thing. Your organization, I don't know, I want to say it's a club, it's a paranormal team. Yeah, team would be the proper thing to call it, I guess. So if you need some members that would come in, I know you're kind of selective about this, you want serious members.
We have an application process, people need to be interviewed, but if anyone's interested, has a passion for the paranormal, we are, have open membership. And they can just contact me via email at colleen@allcpara.com.
Okay, Colleen@allc. Ooh. Something paranormal just happened there. We had a little screech on the thing here. It wasn't me. Whatever it was. Anyway, go give us that again.
It's Colleen@allcpara.com.
Allcpara.com.
And
because the team is All-Seeing Paranormal.
Right. But that's an awful long email address.
Oh, yeah. So just shorten it down. Yeah, it makes sense to me, yeah.
And the other thing, we can also be found on Facebook, All-Seeing Paranormal.
Okay, cool. All right. So you're around so they can get a hold of you if they want to. Serious members. People that are serious about this. Yeah.
Not a lot of time involved because most of us, especially with summer coming up, don't want to be spending every weekend doing an investigation.
Of course not. Most people want to investigate the lake and the beaches and the pools and all that stuff in the summer and that. But
not a lot of paranormal activity there, but...
Well, it's around all year long, yeah.
Not at the beach.
Not at the beach, no, not at the beach, no. Many people seem to be... people, of course, once the fall starts rolling around and the cool weather starts coming and October hits, that's when the paranormal takes off. That's when we have all the seasonal paranormal people.
It's very true, and it's really funny, though, come Thanksgiving to, February, most teams do not do a whole lot of investigating.
And you would think like winter months like that would be the time you do it, yeah. Of course, the paranormal, as we all know, is with us always. There's never like a season for it. It's around all the time, all year long. It's with us. So, yeah.
The other misnomer, I think, is that people think paranormal activity happens, between 2 and 3 a.m.
Oh yeah, I've talked about that a few times too. Yeah, during the day, in the morning, at night, anytime. Yeah, most people think it has to be done at midnight on a thunderstormy night, in a dark room, and this kind of stuff.
Full moon.
Yeah, we know that not to be true. Yeah, sometimes that is the case, though. Some conditions are a little better for it.
Definitely a full moon.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, so yeah. So, let's see. What would you like to? I know the Rialto is a big thing for your team. You love
it. Has been in the past. We haven't done anything there in about a year and a half.
Okay.
I have had.
I should say the Rialto in Joliet, the Rialto Theater. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We have had a lot of interest in us doing another investigation there, so that may be something that we look towards the end of this year.
Okay. Yeah. Now, when you say investigation, let's just allow for people that may be listening to this that are interested, what actually involves it? Now, I know this, but we're throwing this out.
Well, it really depends.
What actually involves an investigation? What do you actually do on this investigation?
If you like at the Rialto, what we did is we had areas that we call hotspots, so we always had activity, and regardless of when we were there. And going back a few years ago, we were there quite frequently. Mm-hmm. We could go to these certain areas, and that place is just booming with activity. And if you haven't been there, I would go there for no other reason just than the architecture alone.
The old theaters are beautiful. They're also great for paranormal activity. Old theaters and school auditoriums seem to be kind of good.
And schools.
Yeah, schools for that matter too. You're right about that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But at the Rialto, we had these hot spots, and we would split up into groups no more than 6 or 7 people, and we would rotate. So we had a team member in each area, and then we would spend probably a good half hour, depending upon how many areas and how many people we had. And it's a hands-on investigation. So we would bring our equipment, and people would actually conduct the investigation. So it wasn't us going, hey, look at this. It's here. You use the meter. You tell me what you see, what you feel.
Now, again, this was something that you opened up to the public. They could come in and do this. They pay a fee, of course. You'd have to, because, of course, the Rialto would charge you, so you have to charge something there,
right.
so it doesn't, so you're not out of pocket on this. And people would come in and just experience what an investigation is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, I do believe the Rialto was doing some spirits with the spirit.
Spirits with the spirit.
Or spirits with the spirits. And they would have like a little tour.
Okay.
A cocktail reception, party with the spirits.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they're still doing those, though.
Did any spirits ever come up on the spirits?
We did not
with
conduct
the spirits
those.
Store,
we did not conduct those.
That wasn't yours. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
But the Rialto is an amazing place, so.
It is. It's a beautiful old theater in Joliet. If you ever get a chance to even just go there, even if they're having a performance or anything going on in there, it's great to see. Yeah, because it's starting to become a thing of the past. These old, theaters like this they're just not around anymore. The ones that are there are kind of protected. They're architectural gems, and they're hanging on to them and that. But they're also good for other things too, like the stuff we're talking about tonight.
I recently had a call from the Rialto asking a question that something was going on there, and they were wondering how did I think these spirits would be reacting to this. And that was a few weeks ago, so that was kind of fun.
Ooh, and the screeching is not fun. Yeah, we keep getting the feedback here. Yeah. Oh, is that what it is? The headphones doing it? Okay. So we can hear that screeching, but it's not going over the radio? Is that the way this is? What's going over? Yeah, that's what I figured. If we could hear it, they could hear it too, yeah. So there'll be a little screeching here and there when they hear this. Tomorrow morning on Jack FM, is it, John?
Yeah.
We'll be on tomorrow morning on our sister affiliate here, Jack FM, 89.7 WRHS circle here in Norwich at the Ridgewood High School. So we'll be broadcast on there. And then also, too, as you know, you can pick these shows up on the Windy City Network and also on YouTube. Thanks to Mr. John Chikanda. He throws the shows up really quickly. He'll put them up like in a day or two, and you can listen to the broadcast in its entirety, in case you can't catch it tomorrow morning at Jack FM.
And on a private investigation in a residence or something, it's entirely different.
Now, how would this go? Now, people would contact you, say someone feels there's something going on in their home, they get a hold of you. Now, how would they do this now? Because you don't advertise this, and you're not
we
like
have a web page.
So they'd find you online mostly.
You can Google, paranormal societies or teams, and there's actually a site out there, and I think it's actually called Paranormal Societies, and it breaks it down by state. So you just type in your state, what area, and there's thousands of teams in each state.
Oh my goodness, yes, there certainly are. I was just going to say that there's probably the list is probably endless. It's probably as big as the Old Testament. Yeah.
And that's why they break it down by state.
Yeah.
But you can, we have the web page. We're on Facebook.
And so someone would call you, and you would come in, and you'd investigate, and you'd do this. And now, what's the time frame like for a normal investigation? Would this just be something you do in the course of an evening, or in the course of a day, or sometimes?
It really depends. I mean, first off, when someone contacts us, we do a lot of information gathering. We do a lot of research.
Before actually going in and doing the actual
Absolutely.
investigation, you do all your homework ahead of time. Okay.
We want to know what they're experiencing,
Sure.
who's experiencing, how old is your house or apartment or whatever, how long have you lived there, did the activity just start, has it been going on for years? There's a lot of factors that come into play. And after that point, we would go out there and do an investigation, and minimum, I would say 3 hours.
3 hours minimal, okay.
We've been on investigations that have been overnight and longer.
Yeah, just how, and it depends what you're getting. If you're picking up a lot of stuff, you stay there longer.
Right.
Yeah, maybe it's a dry night and things just aren't that active. You're not getting it, and then maybe cut it a little shorter. Is that the way it would work?
Well, usually walking in with the gifts I have, that I'm usually able to tell if there's something there.
Okay.
A lot of times, even if there's something there, we may not get any activity.
Okay.
At that point, we'll do what we need to do, go through all the steps, take pictures, run video, run audio, and see what we get. Now, there have been times we walked in and we've had activity nonstop all night, and we've started an investigation at 7 or 8 at night and not finished till 7 o'clock the next morning.
Now, when you say activity, what kind of activity are you getting? I know it varies place to place. You get different things. Are you getting visual things where you can see things, or are you just getting the usual, the cold spots, the touches on the shoulder, or you're feeling stuff, or?
Yes,
Okay.
all of it.
Okay, all of the above.
Those of us who are sensitive will see things at times, we'll feel things. A lot of times, on our equipment, we're going to see changes. Using a infrared thermometer, you're going to see changes. Just on our meters alone, you're going to see activity. And a lot of times we'll be doing Q&A using, some of the equipment, or a ghost meter, or an obelisk or something. And if we're going to get responses, we're not going to shut down an investigation.
Now, when you say a Q&A, you're doing a Q&A with the spirits. What's
Correct.
going on there? You're asking, what kind of questions would you ask a spirit?
It really would depend upon the residents and what's being experienced there and what activity we're getting.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of times people sense that it's a family member. So at that point, we're going to let them run the investigation, and we're just going to be there to help.
Just because you may get a better response with someone that they know, or someone they're more
Absolutely.
familiar with. Okay, yeah.
There's some teams out there that like the resident people not to be there. Well, if those are the people who experience an activity, you would want them there.
You might get a better reception, yeah. You
Right.
Might, yeah. Okay.
And if you,
It makes sense to me.
And you as a team member, if you have questions, if they're not there to ask, you're kind of like, trying to backtrack later on.
Now, isn't one of the big rules in paranormal investigating you don't ask provoking questions?
That's what I tell my team members.
Yeah, not to ask provoking questions. So not ask. I know some people feel like, well, if they're not getting responses, being polite and being nice, what is your name? Are you here? Are you, this and that and the other. Then they start asking things a little more aggressive with the questioning.
Okay, I tell my team never provoke.
No.
Absolutely not. Do not provoke. Now, am I guilty of provoking? Absolutely.
Okay.
Do as I say, not as I do.
I imagine sometimes as an investigation goes on, especially if you've been there for a few hours or something, you might be getting a little frustrated with it yourself, and then you start asking some questions that might just to try to get some kind of a response.
Now, that's actually a time that I would not provoke if I was getting frustrated.
Okay, so we'll go the other way.
I actually will provoke if I think that something is not necessarily good, and see if I can strike a nerve.
Okay.
Now, if things start, flying around and hitting me on my head, that's on me. That's why I do not allow my team to do that.
Now, have you had this happen where things have actually flown around and hit you and this kind of stuff? Have you
No.
experienced that? No, you haven't.
No.
Let's hope you never do. Yeah.
Obviously, I haven't upset them too much.
Okay, yeah. Now, you did mention, I'm sorry, go ahead. You were just going to say something.
But we do a lot of times in certain instances when we're doing like a cleansing at a place, a lot of times you have to provoke a little. And I'm sure there's people out here who will disagree with that. And I respect their opinion as well.
I was going to say, every team does it a little differently. Every
Absolutely.
person, every individual, yeah.
And you know what? That this is not an exact science. So it's kind of like, there's gray area with it. So you have to do something what you're comfortable with.
Now, you just talked about a cleansing. Explain to us a little bit what that would be, like a cleansing, what that would be.
We've had a couple clients where they've had demonic activity.
Okay.
And people are physically being harmed. Things are flying across the room.
Okay.
And at that point, what do?
You call the Ghostbusters.
paranormal researchers. So they will contact us, and we are one of the few teams out there that will actually do a cleansing.
Would Ghostbusters be a term that you would use, or do you prefer paranormal investigative team? Or
I've never busted a ghost.
Never busted a ghost.
No.
No. Can't bust a ghost, huh?
So I prefer paranormal researcher.
Paranormal researcher. Okay, makes
or
sense to me.
investigator.
And now, like you just said yourself, this is not a recognized science, paranormal investigating. So this is something that there is no real, book about, written down criteria, how it should be done, what you should do. So it's kind of an individualistic thing.
Believe it or not, there is actually a couple books out there.
So there are some guidebooks on how to do this?
There
or
are.
Okay, all right. Mm-hmm.
And I recommend people read them,
Mm-hmm.
and then you need to do what you're comfortable with.
Okay, what's a good one that you would recommend? Any title comes to mind?
Oh, God, it's Troy Taylor's book, and I do not remember.
Okay. He's written a few, I know
Yeah.
that, yeah.
And I think it's like Ghost Hunting 101 or something like
Okay,
that.
well,
but
if you
it is
punch
a
up Troy Taylor, it'll come up,
Yes.
all his stuff will come
Yes.
up there in that, because I know he's authored quite a few things, yeah.
And that's actually a good book.
Now, a while back, I kept this in the back of my head because I wanted to ask you about this without forgetting it. You mentioned gifts. You said, my gifts. What exactly are your gifts? What do you have? What kind of gifts
I am
do
a
you
bit
have?
of a sensitive.
Okay.
A lot of times I will meet a total stranger and have messages to give them.
Okay.
So it's like...
So now a sensitive...
It's a term we use. Other people would say psychic. Other people would say medium.
I was going to say, how would this be different from medium or psychic? But
It's
they're kind of the
not.
same thing.
Yeah, but I don't, claim to be a psychic or a medium, but I do have gifts.
Well, that's a psychic or a medium.
It is,
Mhm.
but I guess I'm
You
not
don't like that
comfortable
term.
with the
You don't like you like a sensitive better.
Yeah.
It just sounds a little more polite or sensitive.
And the thing is, most people have gifts. I mean,
Yes, a lot of people do. They just don't exercise them. Yeah. Mhm.
exactly.
Mhm.
You know,
And when I say exercise, I don't mean like an exorcism. I mean exercise them like 1, 2, 1, 2. Lift up the dumbbells.
Yeah, a lot of times everybody, my first question was like, someone's like, oh, I don't have any of that. I'm like, did you ever walk into a room and the hairs on your neck stand up?
Hmm?
That's sensitivity.
Well, you could say it's sensitivity or it's a paranormal experience.
True.
Thin line between the two. Yeah.
Yeah, I call it my third eye.
Oh, okay. So you have 2 in front and 1 in the back of your head.
Actually, I think it's the middle of my forehead.
Ah, okay. Let me move you here. Let me see. I gotta see if there's an eye there. No, there's no eye there. Like a cyclops or something. Just the one
There
eye
you
sticking
go,
on the top
exactly.
there. That's interesting.
I usually wear the patch.
Yeah.
So then I'm
your,
a pirate.
your Jack Sparrow, your pirate patch on that one, huh?
Yeah, so cleansings, and we've been successful in every one we've done.
Now, what would be involved with a cleansing? I mean, if you can't give away your secrets, you can't, if there's things you don't want to talk about, but what would, like, say someone has called you, a client has called you, and they say, we have something going on here. We'd like a cleansing. We have some kind of an evil thing here in the house. You would come in to investigate to make sure that this is indeed what they claim it to be.
Right.
And then you say, all right, we do need to do a cleansing here.
First off, it's going to be a long conversation with the client on what their faith is,
Okay.
not what their religion is, because I really don't care about someone's religion. That's a personal choice.
So not a religious affiliation, but what they actually believe, if they're like a belief in God or in Buddha or
Absolutely.
Islam or whatever. Yeah, okay.
And my personal opinion is, if you want help, you have to have a belief in a higher being.
Okay.
My personal one's God.
So this
But-
wouldn't work too well with atheists.
No.
Ah, okay.
But you know what? If an atheist doesn't believe in God, do they really believe in good and evil and all the other things that go along with it?
But sometimes don't you find, I'm sure you, like I, have talked to many people who claim to have had different experiences with paranormal and with demons and with things that have touched them or hurt them, scratched them, this kind of thing like that. Don't you sometimes find, in just doing your little homework and asking questions and or letting them talk and find things out about them, some people that have like the least amount of religious convictions seem to be the people that experience this more than others. Maybe because these spirits or demons can kind of get to them a little easier than someone that does have a strong faith or strong belief in God or in a supreme being. So just sort of a little theory that I have
I'm
about
kind
it.
of thinking of the clients and
mhm.
the cleansings that I've done, and in one case that was true.
Mm-hmm.
But before we could help this person, they needed to believe in something.
Okay.
Because at that point they had no religion in their life, which is fine, but they had no belief system. And it was probably 2.5 months with me on the phone with her every evening, talking about different things, because when we do a cleansing, it's not us coming to someone's house and getting rid of things.
Mm-hmm.
God's given us the tools to help people and walk them through this. I can't go to your house and get rid of bad stuff. It's not my house. I don't live there. I can come to your house, walk you through the steps, help you with the cleansing, performing the cleansing to get rid of things.
Incidentally, too, I would just like to say, to your credit and to the credit of All Seeing Paranormal, you do not charge anybody a nickel for any of this stuff.
No, we do not.
You come and do this, and it's all completely free of charge. You do this just basically out of the goodness of your heart. Yeah.
The only thing we have asked that if we're driving more than 100 miles each way, we might be asked to be reimbursed for gas.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's just reasonable. Yeah.
If it's affordable for the person. I mean, and the funny thing is we've driven 3.5 hours north to Michigan. We've been downstate.
I was just going to ask you, how far have you gone for one of these investigations? Yeah, what's the furthest you've been? But you're kind of telling me right here.
About
yeah.
3.5 hours.
Yeah, okay.
And those people were not in that, able to that, and that would never stop us from doing an investigation.
You're very commendable and very interesting, yeah. So what kind of got you started into paranormal? Let me just ask you this question here. What got you started? I mean, everybody has something different. Some people it's a movie, some people it's a, experience, someone talking to them. What kind of got you started in
When
this?
I was a little girl, I always knew things. And when I was about 8 or 9, my parents and I took a vacation, or just a vacation day, I should say, to Galena.
Okay.
And we're pulling into town. I'm like, Mom, I want to go here. Can we go for ice cream here? She's like, oh, did you see a sign? I'm like, no. She's like, well, how do you know? I'm like, well, I know it's around the corner.
Oh.
And then I'm like, I want to go to the place with the stairs again. And Mom's like, we've never been here before. How do you? I'm like, I just know. To my mother's credit, my mother did not think she had a little crazy child. My mother had premonitions.
So your mother was somewhat of a little bit of a psychic there.
Yes.
She has a psychic ability herself. So,
Yeah.
so it's something maybe you kind of inherited that way, yeah.
Could be.
I was going to say, if you went to Galena, I don't know if you encountered Ulysses S. Grant up there,
We did not.
Did not encounter him.
No.
You have had some experiences, though, with some famous people that you've encountered, haven't you?
Only at the Rialto, and I don't know how famous they were.
Yeah, at the Rialto, yeah.
I mean, we've got the bride, that was my first and only apparition I've seen.
Oh, there was an apparition of a bride at the theater, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that was my first visit there prior to...
Bride ghosts seem to be kind of common, aren't they?
Well, that was actually where her wedding took place.
So her wedding was at the... Now, how did you find this all out?
Through talking to the people at the Rialto, and apparently they went back to old records and stuff, and...
Were there more than one weddings at the Rialto?
I don't know.
Okay, because if there's one and you got one bride there, that would be an easy one to peg down and find out exactly who it was or who the person is, who the spirit is.
The other thing is my co-founder of All Seeing Paranormal, Jim Pruitt, also a sensitive, was also given information when we've done the investigations there.
Okay, interesting. So a bride you've encountered. Any name for the bride?
I call her the bride.
Okay. Now, is she a bride as you would see a bride with the wedding gown and the veil and the whole shebang and all
When I
that?
first saw her, we were on the rotunda floor, and I kept looking up because I'm seeing something, and Jim and I were the only ones in the area. And I looked away because I thought, oh my goodness, I'm seeing things. And I looked up, and there she was, keep walking back and forth. And I finally said, Jim, I'm like, the lady up front, dark hair, long
So now,
white
where
gown."
was she in the theater? She was on the balcony, like up on the top?
Right
up there?
above the rotunda.
Right above the rotunda.
Yeah.
That's interesting, yeah.
And now whenever I go there and do an investigation, I can feel certain areas she's in. And usually we'll have our meters.
Now, how are you
with-
certain that it's her? You say, I can feel
because
she's
I'll
there.
ask. Well, I feel her.
Okay.
I have different feelings with different spirits there, and I will always ask. And
What do you ask? You say, are you the bride? And,
I'm like, the last time I was there, we were actually in an area going into the ladies' room. That's usually where I feel her. And I said, I pulled out my meter and I gave it to somebody. I'm like, I'm gonna ask some questions.
You feel her in the ladies' bathroom. I got a joke about this, but I just can't say
Oh,
it.
go for it.
No, I can't do it. This is a family. We're on it. We're in a family time show, and we'll be aired at a school tomorrow, so I can't. Just can't say that one.
And I said, do you remember the first time we met? And my meter just went crazy.
Okay.
And then just continued.
So you're getting a positive response here, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have Vivian.
Now, you said the theater was aware of this, and they researched it. And how did they research it about the wedding being there and all this? And
That I'm not sure of.
Okay. So just the bride shows up, not the groom.
True.
I wonder why the bride. So see, now sometimes, I think a big misconception with people with ghosts and with hauntings and with spirits and seeing things, and it's not always a negative thing. Someone wasn't murdered there or someone wasn't killed. Sometimes it's a pleasant thing.
Most times it's actually pleasant.
Yeah. So like a wedding would be a positive thing and a nice experience. So maybe she was just happy with her wedding there,
Well,
and she just likes to show up, or
from what
she
the
just likes to
story-
relive her wedding.
The stories were told it was actually not a happy experience.
Not a nice thing. Oh, okay. So was this like a suicide, or what was it?
No. Just an interracial marriage, and people weren't happy about it.
Oh, so they had an interracial marriage in the theater? They had a marriage there? They had the ceremony performed there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
That's what we're told.
And people weren't happy, so this would cause a lot of conflict in that. Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That something like that would make her just keep reappearing there or be hanging out there in the theater. Why not somewhere else? I'm sure she had a life, after the wedding, and
Well, she's not trapped there, so I'm sure she could be visiting many places.
yeah, maybe she floats around all over. Her brides are seen at different cemeteries and different places. People claim to see them, so maybe she kind of gets around. Yeah.
I know that when ghost hunters did their investigation there,
Ghost Hunters. There you go. That's better than Ghostbusters. Ghost Hunters.
that they caught her on video as well.
Ah, okay. So they have some video footage of her. Is there any way we can see this? Is this
Actually,
open to the
I believe the episode for that one is called Curtain Call.
And this would be, where would this be? On YouTube or on?
I think it's the Sci-Fi Channel.
Oh, on the Sci-Fi Channel. Oh, so it's a show. It's
Yeah.
a show called Curtain
Yes.
Call, and they actually have some film footage
No, it
of
was
her.
actually the Ghost Hunters show, and the episode is called Curtain Call.
Ghost Hunters Curtain Call, and you can see that one. So I wonder if that's up on the computer on YouTube or something. If you punched it up, you might be able to get a hold of that one.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, we have to find out. Anyway, I'll have to find out. I have to see about that.
But a lot of the things that they captured that night, we've been seeing for years there.
Really? Okay.
They had actually contacted me prior to doing the investigation at the Rialto to see if that's, should they go there.
Now, why did you never think to film these things yourself? You said we've been seeing them. Why did you have to wait for the Ghost Hunters to come in and do their show there and film them? Why would you just not, I'm certain you have all the equipment. Why would you just not do this yourself?
We do not have the equipment.
You don't
the
have the
Ghost Hunters
equipment.
have.
Really?
But if anyone would like to fund us with that equipment, please give me a call.
Oh, I'm sure the phone will be ringing you off the hook for
Yeah,
that one.
absolutely.
People will be calling you up.
No,
Yeah.
television shows have a little more equipment than we do.
Well, yeah, that's because they got the bigger budget.
Yeah, way bigger budget.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have a budget.
But would you need special? I mean, like, say you want to capture a ghost on film or something like this. Would you need special equipment? Could you just not take these with a regular camera,
You
regular
can.
videotaping?
You can, but you have to remember too, they were there overnight. They have the equipment to set up cameras, and obviously in many, many places. They've got people watching them all.
This is something to consider too with this. Now, if you're thinking of going into this, it's something that you are interested in. You don't want to get disappointed. Let's say you go on an investigation and you're there for, you might be there. This doesn't happen in 15 minutes. You may be there for, like we talked earlier, 8-10 hours. You might be there overnight sometimes, and you come up with nothing. And then you might get something another time very quickly. It just depends on the conditions. And
As much as I enjoy the shows on TV, the one thing
they're
that
not very truthful.
well, yeah, I can't say that. I'm just gonna totally ignore that. But the one thing I will say, you're seeing the best of what could have been 24 or 48 hours.
So it does not all get solved in an hour like you see on the show.
No, it does
yeah.
not. And you know what? There are many times we've sat there for an hour with twiddling our thumbs because nothing's happening, and they don't show you. So when people come to an investigation, a public one, or if they're like, "Oh my God, we didn't see anything. It's not like TV." Well, no, it's not like TV.
Yeah, I think a lot of people go into this what they're seeing in the films and in movies and in TV shows and all this, and they think this is what it's going to be, but it's entirely different. When you're doing serious research and serious work on this, it's done very differently.
Well, I'd like one of those shows to say, "Hey, this is what a real investigation is like. We're going to show you all the time we didn't have any activity." And then you would just be sitting in your living room watching TV and nothing would be going on.
I don't know if you get too much of a viewing audience for those.
Exactly, but that's what people, when they go on an investigation, what they expect to see, and that's just not realistic.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
I mean,
you always want to make that clear to people. This doesn't happen in 10 minutes time. There's a lot of work that goes into this, and then videotaping and filming and EVP recordings in this. You have hours and hours of this stuff. These machines are running, and you're asking these questions with the Q&A sessions and all this, and then later on you've got to go back and sit and listen to all this, and that's where the work comes in.
That's the worst part of an investigation is the review.
Sure.
Because you don't just watch something once or twice. You don't just listen once or twice. I mean, I can't tell you how many times it's like, hold on, back it up just a little. Let's listen again.
Yeah, see if you missed something the first time around.
Well, it's really funny. Jim and I, and actually Ray Johnson was with us at the Rialto, And we had a lot of activity from our little friend Colin, the little boy there. And Jim and I have him, telling us to, he doesn't want us to go and all this. And about 6 months ago, I re-listened to our audio again. And I caught him saying even more things that we didn't catch the first, 30 times we listened to it.
Are you sure it wasn't on there the first time? Maybe somehow it got on there, or maybe somehow it got in there, the second time around.
No, it was there.
Oh.
We just...
Tell us about Colin. You told me this. I remember this story because you've been a guest of mine before. I've had you on when I was doing my shows at WARG Radio.
Right.
We had you on there with the team and that. But we never had you here. This is your first appearance here with us on the Windy City Network. So give us the story of Colin. What's his story?
Probably about a 7 or 8 year old boy, very mischievous. I don't think there's been a time that we haven't had activity with Colin at the Rialto.
So he kind of shows up frequently.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
He's just mischievous. I actually know that one of the other spirits there doesn't like him because he's always busy and getting into stuff.
So now what's his story? Why does he like to hang out at the theater? What's his connection to the theater? Why he's there?
The story we had heard, and it has not been verified, is that he was hit by a car outside the Rialto. They brought him inside, and that's where he expired.
So he's hit outside by a car, brought into the theater after he was wounded, and then died in the theater.
That's
so
the
that's why
story
he
we
shows
heard.
up there. That's why he kind of hangs out there.
And
But no positive proof of this.
no,
Okay.
but he
Would
is,
this not be like an easy one to research, or would this be a little
The
difficult? I mean, couldn't you
Rialto's-
find this like in police records and things, or
we have tried.
Uh-huh.
People from the Rialto had tried, and actually another team has tried.
and comes up dry, nothing?
Right, and the Rialto's records, I believe, only go back to the early 1970s.
Oh, we're going to break for a second. We're going to take a break, Colleen, for just a second here. We're going to do our station break here, and then we'll come right back on. Stick with us, folks. This is good. I like talking to Colleen here. Our breaks are very quick. We'll be right back.
You are listening to Paranormal Radio with Bob Trisek from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich, Illinois. And now, back to Paranormal Radio and Bob Trisek.
We are back on the air here. John, I'm not hearing anything. John? Oh, there we go. We're back on. There we are. We got connected again. We're back on. Thank you for tuning back in with us, folks, and listening in. And just in case you just tuned in and you haven't listened to the beginning of the show, our guest tonight is Miss Colleen Carroll, and she's with the All-Seeing Paranormal Team, ASP for short. And we've been having some interesting conversation here. Now, we were just before the break, we were talking about Colin, a little bit about him and what's going on with him. And he likes to show up at the Rialto. Go ahead, just retract us with that a little bit where we were at.
Yeah, he's a, I think, 7 or 8 year old little boy, and he is very mischievous. He's untied my shoes one night, my shoelaces.
When you're sitting down or when you're standing up?
Sitting down, fortunately.
He untied them, and then did he tie them together in one of those tricks?
It was really funny because I normally double knot my gym shoes
Mhm.
because my laces are long. And we were playing with him. We were in the second balcony that night, and we had him running back and forth, moving golf or ping pong balls, etc.
Now, do you actually see him, or do you just know he's up there running
You can
around?
feel him move.
Okay.
You can sense him.
Okay. Now, what would make you sense this and be certain that it's him and maybe not somebody else that's showing up?
Because he was doing everything we asked him to, and it's typical Colin. I mean, trust me, there's
So you call him by his name and he responds to him. He's
absolutely.
listening to you.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That would be proof enough. Okay.
And at one point, he was sitting next to me on the chair, on the little, sofa up there. And I got home that night, and he, like I said, we were up there a half hour, and he's running around playing and doing stuff for us. And I get home, and I go to take my shoes off, and my shoes are no longer double-laced.
Ah.
I'm like, and I called Jim up at the same. I'm like, you won't believe what Colin did tonight. I'm like, he untied my shoes.
Okay.
I mean, he is one of the spirits. I mean, we always protect ourselves and just say, hey, guys, we love playing with you, but you need to stay here at the Rialto. And, I mean, I could have just imagined coming home and having Colin with me. Like I need an 8-year-old running around
Sometimes
my
they
house.
do it. They attach to you and they come back with you. And that, yeah, that's why you
Absolutely.
got to kind of sometimes be careful on this kind of stuff. Yeah.
I mean, even though there's nothing bad at the Rialto and it's all positive and it's all fun and amazing, you still have to set that ground, fine.
I was going to ask you now, what would be a way you could prevent something like this? Like, say you're doing an investigation and you don't want to have somebody brought back home with you in that. How would you prevent this as a sure thing for that not happening? Or is there a guaranteed?
I mean, nothing's guaranteed in life.
Yeah.
I'm at the Rialto.
Well, this is the afterlife.
Their afterlife. I'm still here. At the Rialto, we just always let them know, hey guys, we're here. Remember, you need to stay. Now, if we're going into a residential investigation, a lot of times, I mean, we usually start out with prayer and set that ground line. You know, you're staying here, good or bad. You're staying here.
Okay.
Or you're leaving, but you're not coming. You know, you're not coming home with me.
Now, you mentioned having the shoes untied. That this happened like that. Any other physical contact with ghosts? With spirits, whatever.
With Colin, many things there.
Okay.
I mean, that's just...
So he comes up, touches you on the shoulder, messes your hair up, you know, pulls your ear.
He will touch people. I mean, we always tell people on a public investigation, if you don't want to be touched, say it out loud.
Okay.
Let them all hear. Colin, I mean, we've had him throw candy in the theater at the end of an investigation.
Throw candy.
This is a public investigation, and I always bring candy towards the front door when people coming in, grab a hard piece of candy. Now Jim and I would fight you for the last cherry, any piece of candy. Cherry Chuckle, cherry Lifesaver. We'll fight. You know, we're gonna go fisticuffs on that. And we've talked to Colin about, you know, because when we were there on a regular investigation, when it's just our team, Colin knows there's always candy, and you know. So we're in the theater. It's lights out, and this is the first time I sat in the middle section, where I normally sit on the right or the left, and there's always shadows and voices in the theater. And it's so quiet when lights are out. If someone, like, you know, brushes their finger against their face, you can hear it. It's just everything's magnified. And we're at the beginning of lights out, and I hear something slide across the floor and then stop. I hear it like hit the floor and slide.
Now you're in the theater and it's dark.
Right,
It's dark
and there's probably at that point maybe 10 of us in there.
Okay.
So I jump up, grab my flashlight, run to where I hear the noise, and it's like an area that's just, it's not carpeted right there. It's like, you know, tiling or flooring. Cherry piece of candy.
Now, how do you know, I'm going to be the devil's advocate here, how do you know that this isn't one of the other 10 people just, you know, throwing a piece of candy here in the dark? I mean, and just, you know.
Okay, same thing. I'm like, first off, if anyone's done this, man up. But the thing is, if someone would even move slightly in their chair, you could hear them.
Okay.
That's how dead quiet it is in there. And with the lights out, there's no way you could position that to go to the area it went. I was the only one in that section.
Okay.
Jim was in the other section.
So you're pretty convinced of this. Okay.
No human who was alive and breathing did that night. That was definitely Colin.
Okay.
You know, and the fact that it was a cherry piece of candy.
Does he like cherry? He's got a penchant for cherry candy, or?
No, he did that for Jim and I.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, Jim and I just looked at each other and started laughing when I picked it up, and Jim's like, "No way."
Okay, so over at the Rialto here, we've got Colin who shows up. We've got this bride apparition and bride spirit that shows up there. Any other people? Now, this is a theater. Usually in theaters, sometimes you get some performers and people that have performed there to hang out. Any encounters?
Yes, Vivian.
Vivian? Now, who is Vivian?
I am still trying to research Vivian.
Okay.
Vivian, I asked her if she was a singer or a dancer.
Okay.
And she was not very friendly in the beginning.
Oh, well.
She was very curt.
Maybe she was a chorus girl or something with a little bit of an
no.
attitude.
She had an attitude,
Ah.
but she did it all.
So she was everything.
Yes.
So this is probably an older performer, because the old performers in the old days did it all. They juggled, they danced, they tap danced, they sang, they did, you did it all.
Well, and the thing
Very
is,
versatile performers.
The Rialto is an old vaudeville house. So back, depending upon what type of act you were, it was where your dressing rooms and where everything was situated.
So did she turn up in the dressing room? Is that where she...
I only have her in the Stars dressing room.
Oh, okay. So she might have been a headliner.
If
that was indeed the Stars dressing room in those days.
One of them was.
Okay.
But the thing is, it's a lower one, so I would believe that she did do it all.
Was the Rialto vaudeville, but was it ever a burlesque? No.
I think
vaudeville.
it was just vaudeville.
Vaudeville, yeah. So they didn't have any, dancers or that kind of thing. Oh, okay. So I was going to say, you never know who's going to show up there. You might get some strippers or something showing up and have some naked ghosts prancing across. prancing across the stage or something.
Well,
Although in burlesque, they didn't really strip down quite that far. Burlesque was more of a tease.
Right.
I like to call burlesque adult vaudeville. That's what I like to call burlesque.
Well, it's so funny because we get a lot of activity in the Stars dressing room. And it's so funny. We will have major temperature changes in there.
That's a sure sign that something's going on when you get those fluctuations in the temperature.
The funny thing is because we have the IR thermometers, and we'll be in there, and let's say all of a sudden we're all like, oh, it's cold in here. And we'll do the thermometer, and let's say it's 65 degrees. And I'll usually go, guys, it's a little cold in here. Could you make it 72 for me? And I will hand one of the, paying investigators, the folks that are there to investigate, I'll hand them one of the thermometers or hand out 2 thermometers. I'm like, okay, you're in charge. Tell me if it changes. And I said, if it starts to change, I want you to read the numbers as they're changing. And there's never been a time it has not changed, and they're like, and then it will stop where I ask it to stop.
And how long of a time span does it take? Does this happen like immediately? Boom, it drops really quickly?
Maybe within a 5-7 minute period.
Okay, so
it's doot, 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 and then stops. And same thing if it's hot in there and we want it to get cooler.
It'll do it.
Yes.
Oh, that'd be kind of nice to have the temperature at your command, to make it cooler or hotter, it will.
Maybe I should have one of them come home with me and I wouldn't need heating or air conditioning.
Yeah, if it works, it works. Hey, what the heck? Yeah, you can get it done. That's usually a sure sign of paranormal, though, is when you get the fluctuations in temperature and you can't explain it. It's nothing in the heating system, nothing in the, fans aren't going on, nothing, nothing in the last 5 minutes, nothing went on or off there that would cause the temperature to fluctuate that way, and you have no way to go with that, then you got something paranormal here.
I mean, one time in a private investigation at residence, we had, where, we were nowhere near a vent, and I was sitting on the sofa next to somebody, and both of us were, like, freezing. And
so that cold, it was really cold.
I mean, it was like, and I'm like, isn't anybody else cold? They're like, well, she's like, I'm cold. I'm like, nobody else in the whole room. Took the thermometer out, and sure enough, there was probably an 8 degrees difference.
So other people were there, but certain people were feeling the cold, certain people weren't?
The person on the couch sitting next to me was cold with me.
Okay.
Our area was like 8 degrees different.
So like the area on the sofa or around the sofa, and that was it, but everybody else was fine.
Right. The chair next to the sofa, normal temperature.
Fine. Yeah, no, that's weird, isn't it?
Which was a 1.5 feet away from me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if it's something with a heating system or cooling system, it's going to affect a little bit larger area than that.
Right, and that was actually one of the residences where we had demonic activity.
Oh, so this wasn't a residence. This wasn't in the theater.
No, this was a residence,
yeah.
Private residence.
Now what happens? Now people call you, you go to a home, you go to a private residence, you do these investigations, you have this, and say all this kind of weird activity, happens here. You're, seeing things, you're feeling things, something's untying your shoes, you're feeling these, sitting on the sofa, you're getting these cold temperature swings and all this, and then you've done your investigation and you leave. Now, what happens to the residents that are living there, and they know all this happened and went on and everything? Are they kind of cool with this, or do they get out and head to Motel 6 or something, and get out of there?
Actually, that particular person I was talking about, they had already moved out of their house prior to us getting there.
So they moved out of the house, but then you went and did the investigation?
Uh-huh.
So was there another resident in there or no?
No. They still owned the house. They had just moved out.
Oh, I see. Okay. Mm-hmm.
People physically being harmed and whatnot.
And they were trying to sell it then, or?
No.
Oh.
She just wanted the bad stuff gone, and we got rid of it.
And then they would come back?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they can vacate, and you do your thing, and we'll come back.
I mean, she was there for for the cleansing and everything with us, but then she moved back because all the bad things were gone.
What's involved in one of these cleansings? Now, without giving away too many things, what do you actually do with this cleansing?
As I started to say
earlier, you take a bucket and a sponge and some water and soap and go in there and start cleaning the carpets and the walls.
I don't do windows.
Oh, you don't do windows, but you do carpets and floors and.
No.
Okay.
As I started to say earlier, it really is someone's faith. Okay, and I said that with this particular person, it was like 2.5, 3 months on the phone every night, building a faith system in something. It's like, I don't care what you believe in, I'll work with whatever you believe in. But you got to believe in something, because otherwise we can't help you. And after that, we went back and did the cleansing. So what we generally start out with is, if we can locate a black salt around the perimeter of the residence.
Black salt.
Okay, with holy water, and we pray as we go around.
Holy water is easy to get. Where do you get a hold of black salt?
You can order it, but it's very expensive rather. We tend to use just sea salt when we can't locate the black.
And does that work just as good results?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
And then we'll actually go into the residence. And
I've never heard of black salt.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
And we have a mixture of frankincense and myrrh.
Okay, frankincense and myrrh, we know what that is.
And I've got certain oils that we use that we spray in there as well.
Okay.
And then we have the frankincense and myrrh, and basically in holy water as well.
Mhm.
And we go in each room, and we have the Bible open. Everybody we've dealt with so far has been Christian.
Any particular section, or does it matter? Just so it's there and open?
No. We're in the book of Psalms.
Okay.
And there are many, many Psalms in there for protection, for ridding your residents or yourself of enemies and evil and things like that.
Mhm.
And we light the frankincense and myrrh, and I've got the oils we spray, and we just go room to room.
Now, frankincense and myrrh is something that you would burn.
Mhm.
You burned that, yeah,
Mhm.
okay. I think myrrh was originally used in the embalming process. I think so. In the ancient days, in biblical days, I think it was something, a very costly thing that was, put on the body, in the embalming process, way back.
And I don't remember the two oils I used because fortunately we haven't had to do a cleansing in a while.
Quaker State and Penn oil?
No.
No, not Quaker
No,
State and
no.
Penn. Okay. Two
And
holy oils. Now I didn't
They're
know.
not holy oils.
Oh, they're not holy
No,
oils.
but they're oils that are used in cleansings and things like that.
Okay. There's black salt now. You got me thinking about that. I'm going to have to check this out, black salt, because I've never heard of that. Yeah. And I've never heard you mention, I've known you for some time, but I've never heard you mention the black salt before.
I don't know we really discuss cleansings that much.
Yeah, no, I never really asked you too much about that either, yeah. So it's kind of cool we're discussing some of this here.
So we
Yeah.
basically, have the resident read out of the Bible
Mm-hmm.
with the Psalms that we give them, and we go room to room until you feel the room change.
You feel the room change. Now, what would you feel?
The heaviness go away.
Okay, so just like a...
The first one I've ever did, the only way I can describe it is we'd already been there. We started at 7 or 8 at night. It was now 7:30 the following morning. And you could just, as we were finishing and going through room to room, you could just feel the whole atmosphere change. The room, the condo became light.
Okay. So not light in, like a light and dark, just a light in, like heaviness. It
Light
became
and
lighter, like a weight off
heaviness.
your shoulders type thing.
Yes.
Okay.
And it became brighter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just a total
So
transformation.
then you know it was a success, or
Yes.
you feel it's a success and that's it?
And,
Okay.
Jim and I could feel things like that.
Okay.
I can feel things like that. But we really leave it up to the client
Okay.
because they're the ones that need to feel it.
Now,
And we don't prompt them saying, hey, are you feeling anything different? It's just like you just wait for their cue, like, it feels different in here.
Mhm.
It's sunny in here. It's light in here. And then you're like, yes.
so it's something everyone would experience and say there is
Yes.
a definite difference in here, and then you can kind of know then it was successful.
Yes.
Now, what happens in the case? Say you do this. Now, I'm not exactly sure of this percentage of success rate of this thing. Say you do something like this, and then they say, "Oh, something didn't work here, Colleen. Wait a minute. 2 days later, we're experiencing this again. The cleansing didn't quite work here." Would they recall you to come back in and try again, or
That's
or
never
is it
been
a
our
possibility of
experience.
something else coming in?
Generally not.
Mm-hmm.
I would really say, tell me what you're experiencing. If things start flying off the walls, people are being hurt, would we go back? Absolutely.
Mhm.
That's not been our experience.
Okay.
And we've been doing these things for
So it's not
4 or
like
5 years.
poltergeist activity.
No,
Okay.
no. But I mean, we've had some bad things where people physically being harmed, and that's why, a cleansing is not 10 minutes or 2 hours. Our cleansings are usually 12 hours or longer.
So 12 hours of prayer and Bible reading and all this and
Just
everything, and yeah.
the client reading the Psalms, going room to room, wall to wall, holy water, the frankincense and myrrh,
all
the
this burning.
incense, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's every room of the house.
Wow. So this is a big process.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get done, your house really smells from frankincense and myrrh, too, for
Yes.
this myrrh and frankincense burning for 12 hours in there, yeah.
Well, it's really funny. I had a non-Catholic
Okay.
client.
Yeah.
And now I'm used to, as a Catholic, I'm used to the frankincense and myrrh. It reminds me of a Catholic funeral.
Okay.
Okay, because that's what they're. And her and her mom were like, "Oh my God, where did we get this incense? It smells so great." And I'm thinking, "How much do you want? I'll give you some out of my case, because it's not going home with me."
My experience of frankincense and myrrh was when we were kids. We used to buy it on Three Kings Day, January, the Feast of the Epiphany, January 6th. We'd buy a little box at church, and then we'd bring it home and burn it. And there was a piece of chalk in it, too. And we used to, yeah, you didn't do that? No, this wasn't yours?
No talk.
Okay, we bought a little. It was a little white box, and it had the pictures of the three kings with, on their camels on the little white box, and it had the frankincense and myrrh in it, and there was a piece of chalk in it, and you were supposed to put the initials, I think, on your door or over your doorway, the initials of the kings: Caspar, Balthazar, and Melchior. And you put their initials, and then you burn the incense.
Interesting.
And I don't know what the significance of this was, but that's what it did. That's what we did.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
I always tried to get an extra present because I know some
You wanted
countries,
the extra chalk.
yeah, Spanish-speaking countries, they celebrate the Epiphany and they get
Right.
like Christmas presents for it. But Matt says, no dice. You got yours on Christmas. No, nothing for three kings for you.
Well, if you ever want frankincense and myrrh, give me a call. I've got plenty.
Oh, okay. So this is something that's readily available and you can get a hold of it. And
We buy in bulk.
where do you buy frankincense and myrrh? Do you get it online or what do you do? You just call up the
online.
frankincense and myrrh company and they send it
Online.
to you? Okay.
Yeah.
So buying it in bulk now. When you say bulk, how much do you buy?
Like a pound.
Oh, okay. So it's
Yeah.
I was thinking like maybe a 25 bag of birdseed or something here.
No. And if anyone's looking to just buy something small, I think it's ghosthuntershop.com. They have a little box. It's called Gift of Magi.
That's what I'm talking about. That's
Yeah.
the one we used to get
Yeah.
when we were kids at church. We used to buy these
Yeah.
things for like 30 cents or something at
Yeah.
that time. Yeah.
I mean, when we first started doing cleansings, we bought a couple of those, and then it's like, this is getting expensive. We're not getting paid. How about we buy
Buying
in
the
bulk?
pound is cheaper. Yeah. And you're not paying for the little box and all that.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Yeah.
Except there's no three kings in our box. It was
No
just
three
a little
kings,
plastic
just a little
box.
plastic box. No, ours had the picture of the kings on it. Wasn't a photograph, but it was actually a little picture of. Caspar, Balthazar, and Melchior, I think, those were the names of the kings. Yeah. Mesopotamia, Persia, and I think Ethiopia was where they originated from, where they came from.
Really?
Yeah. Isn't that something? See, you learned all kind of things here. We don't know if they're true, but you do learn things on this show. So, yeah. Okay, so we've kind of covered the cleansing. We've kind of covered some of the entities at the Rialto there. Now, Vivian that you talked about, so you think she was a performer there?
Oh, she was.
She was definitely. But you don't know what her act was, what she did. You don't know if she was a dancer, a juggler, a singer, a whatever.
She did it all.
She did it all. She did
Every time
everything.
I ask, that's her response.
Okay, so she was like a well-rounded performer. She did a lot of different things there, yeah. Okay. Vivian, we have no last name, though, so we can't really track her down and know who she is or who she was.
No, I don't have my notes with me because there's other things I'm still researching with her. I do know she always had violet or purple on.
Okay.
She did have a boa.
Now, how did you know about that? Now, how do you know the colors? Has she ever seen her apparition? She appeared to you?
No, she's told me.
She's told you that she wears purple, she likes purple, and she likes her feather boa. She wears a boa.
There's a person who, I'm not going to mention names because I don't know if they would appreciate that.
Sure.
But there's someone who works with us sometimes when we are at the Rialto who channels Vivian for me.
Okay.
So I get to talk, and she gets to channel, and we get a lot of answers from Vivian.
Outside of the colors and the costume
That's
with the
how
feathers.
I found out her name.
Do you have any idea what she looks like? The hair is done in a, shoulder length
gotten that
hair.
far.
It's done in pin curls, any kind of style, nothing,
gotten
no
that
physical
far.
appearances. No, you haven't gotten that far with her. Huh?
It took me probably 2 years to get her name.
Wow, 2 years just to get the name
She's
Vivian.
not warm and friendly.
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier. She's kind of like, yeah.
Yeah.
So how is she like to have a conversation with by not being warm and friendly? She's just kind of standoffish. She doesn't want to talk to you. She doesn't want to bother.
She wants to talk, but she is standoffish, and she's very, like I said, very curt.
Okay.
I just kind of figure, okay, well, maybe something happened in her life to make her this way, so I'm just really patient, and hey, if you don't want to answer these, thanks for talking to me anyway, and...
So she was kind of a hard nose, huh? She was a
At
tough one to get through
first.
to. Then she's kind of warming up to you a little bit now, but it's taking time.
It has. It's taken a couple
Well,
years.
see, in her case, she's got eternity, so it doesn't matter. She
That's
can take
true.
her time. Yeah. We don't have that long, but she's got eternity, so she can take her time. Yeah. And even now, it's interesting. I should say this. It's interesting for me to think of the fact that maybe someone else has gone there and done investigations and encountered some of these same people. Any insight into that? Or?
A little bit. There was people who were on our public investigation and then did a private investigation with us. And the last I heard, they were running the open investigations at the Rialto.
Okay.
They don't have a team. They're not paranormal investigators, and that's pretty much all I know.
Okay. Now, by an open investigation, this is just people just go into the theater and they
A public investigation.
just hang around and no equipment or anything or what?
I don't know. Maybe these people bought equipment. I don't know.
Whatever.
Yeah. But they did the last open or public investigation there.
Now,
I don't know if they even had activity. I mean,
would some of these things be encountered by people, not necessarily paranormal investigators, or not necessarily doing an investigation? Say someone that's a patron of the theater, they're coming there for a concert or for an event that the theater is having, and then they encounter, seeing the lady in the purple dress with the feather boa, or they encounter the little boy, and they find their shoes untied and things, and they see.
Could it happen? Absolutely.
Yeah. But
I don't know. I mean, I think part of it is you not notice a lot of things there if you're not open to them.
And then sometimes, too, which is another reason why the investigators like to do these in off hours and that kind of stuff, it's quieter and there's not that many people. When you have a lot of people, you may not even necessarily be aware that something's happening.
Right. I mean, I
so much
always
activity
see shadows when I sit in the theater, but you know what? If that theater was filled, I wouldn't be able to see those shadows. Just because they'd be blocked by people.
Sure, to be so many people in there and different lighting and things going on.
And you wouldn't be I always hear voices when I'm in there. I wouldn't hear voices because other people are going to be talking.
Hearing voices. What kind of messages are you getting from the voices? What are they saying to you?
No, whenever I've been down there and we've been in lights out, or if I'm in the theater by myself, let's say I came back to get something, I always hear talking in the back row. If you're on the stage facing out, it's in the right corner.
That's interesting.
Almost by the doors. There's always a conversation. I can't make out the conversation.
Is it like a bunch of people or two people?
Two
Maybe
people.
Just two people talking, huh? Oh, okay. That's kind of interesting. If you need to know if that conversation is somehow connected to some of these folks here that we've got, the Colin, the Bride, or Vivian here. Huh?
But they're not female voices.
Oh, okay.
They're male voices.
The only male would be Colin, and he would be a little boy.
Well, we have experienced one other male there once, and you know what? I don't even think we've even touched on some of the spirits that are there. And it could be partly because we're so focused on the ones we have relationships with and who constantly come out and play with us.
Repeat customers.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
I really miss playing with them there because it's such fun.
You miss playing with them then? Well, you can always go back, can't you?
Like I said, there are other people doing investigations.
So they kind of put the door on that one right now. They kind of it's a closed door on that.
No, short story is, they wanted me to do something, and Jim and I opted not to.
Okay.
Is the door open? We could go in there if they're still doing the private things and be a paying investigation. Absolutely.
Now the theater, the Rialto, I imagine, is doing this. They're not allowing people to come in just without a payment, so they're somehow being compensated for this.
They're not doing any private investigations like we were doing there. If you and 5 of your friends wanted to come in, you could have paid a fee before, and we would have done
fine.
And that would have been just your investigation.
Now they're no longer allowing this.
They're not doing that at all, and I think I think probably their last public investigation, like the ones we were doing, was a year ago.
Now, whose idea was this from the start to even start doing these investigations? Did the Rialto contact someone and say, hey, we have some things going on here? Or does someone just, okay, here we go?
Jim had a friend there.
Okay.
And his friend kind of said to the people running, the Rialto, hey, let my friend come in and talk to you guys. And they did, and they liked Jim, and Jim was on another team at the time. This is before he and I had partnered on All Seeing Paranormal. And that's how it got started. And then I joined that other team. And then the first investigation, the public investigation we did there together, we were still on the other team. And then we left the other team and formed All Seeing Paranormal.
Okay.
And then we kept the agreement with All Seeing.
Now, have you ever had any, now, as a paranormal investigator, you're kind of prepared for this, but you ever had any situation happen to you on an investigation at the theater or private or whatever, where you've actually really been frightened yourself, and you're really scared of this yourself, and you said, whoa, this is something I need to get out of. This is a little more than I can handle.
No.
You haven't had that. You haven't encountered that yet.
My first 2 investigations were demonic, and then they wound up being cleansings.
Okay. So now, how would you know that it's a demonic? I mean, what would distinguish something demonic from just, say, Colin coming in, or a bride, showing herself up or something?
Colin and everything at the Rialto is all good stuff. Jim had actually done the first investigation at the one location prior to me even joining the team.
That's what I'm saying. Now, how would you, when you definitely say something's demonic, so...
Jim's a sensitive.
But now, how would a demonic one act, say, opposed to one of these other people? They were just being a little mischievous.
Pure evil.
Pure evil.
Hurting people
So they hurt
physically.
people.
I mean, harming things. I mean, there's nothing good about it.
So anybody, that's what I'm saying now, on a demonic one, is there anybody, you've done an investigation where someone's actually been physically harmed by
Yes.
one of these? There has been.
Yes.
Now in what way? Were they scratched, bitten, broken arm, a leg,
Scratched, arm
poked their
pulled
eye or something, or?
Scratched, pulled behind, hand pulled behind your back, someone sitting on your chest, you're not being able to move, being scratched at the same time while your baby's screaming
So
in
not any
another room.
real serious injuries. I mean, nothing.
Nothing in the hospital now.
Yeah, I
I mean,
was
one
just saying
person
nothing-
did go to the hospital one night, but
Probably for more emotional than anything else, huh?
they were still in a lot of pain.
Really? Now, what happened with that one? Somebody crushed their chest or scratched
No,
her?
this was someone where the client's sister was at the house, and they were in the kitchen. Thing pulled behind her arm behind her back and wouldn't let go.
Really?
And
So
her,
it just kind of latched onto, grabbed on,
and her sister's trying to pull her arm into and couldn't.
Okay.
They
this-
wound up calling
whatever
it-
this thing was, grabbed her arm,
Mm-hmm.
and the sister was trying to take it off.
Okay, this thing is holding her arm behind her back.
Oh,
and
holding her
s-
arm behind her back.
Holding
Oh,
her arm behind her back.
Okay.
And her sister's trying to dislodge her arm and
Couldn't do it.
No.
Oh, that's kind of an interesting one.
Yeah.
So was she actually? She was just trying to pull her sister's arm, but whatever
was-
this was still holding it back there. She couldn't do it.
Yes.
So finally, did it just release on its own, and enough was enough?
They wound up calling an ambulance.
Really? They called an ambulance in there, and then what happened? Did the demonic
I wasn't. I mean,
Oh.
eventually, but yeah.
We don't know what happened. So the ambulance people came in and saw this, and they couldn't pry her arm loose or whatever. Oh, wow. So took her to hospital, and then finally, what happened? How did it
I
finally? You don't know the rest of the story.
No.
Well, geez, Colleen, now, you know.
I know she didn't go back to the house after that.
I don't think I would either. If I had something like that happen, I don't think I would do it either. No.
And part of the reason you asked me if I was afraid, you know what?
See, now,
Firemen run into a house, and my mom taught me to run out of a burning building.
Mhm.
So God's given me this gift to help people
Mhm.
in this way. So how can I not? How can I go in there and be afraid? How can I help if I'm afraid?
I've had some experiences. Well, I don't necessarily know if I could say I was frightened. I mean, frightened to the point where I was scared and say, "Whoa, I'm not messing with this." But I think startled. Sometimes you're not expecting some. The unexpected scares
Absolutely.
us all. Yeah, and
I mean, I've been startled.
You've turned around and something was there or something that you weren't expecting, and whoa, what have I got here? So yeah, we've all had that. I think.
Yeah, I've been startled, and then I kind of laugh it off.
Mhm.
But I'm going in.
Okay.
So it's like, how can I not help people?
So you just throw yourself into this thing full throttle, and that's it.
As Jim jokes, because like I said, when we did the first investigation, I was still with the other team, and my first investigation was demonic, and my second one was demonic.
Now, when you're doing these cleansings, and you're doing the Bible, and you have
Mhm.
the holy water, and the oil, and the frankincense, and and all this, and everything like that, you're almost doing like a exorcism.
Exorcism is generally a person,
Mm-hmm.
so we're doing house cleaning.
Okay. But now, when you say a person gets possessed by that spirit, so they're
And
trying to get that spirit out
that's what
of the
a priest
person.
does, yes.
Yeah, that's something that's a whole other
Right.
ballgame. Now, they still do exorcisms. The church does this, but you go through it's almost like the canonization process to become a saint.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long process you go through. You don't just call somebody up and say, "Hey, we need a priest here. We got a person that's
Well, and the
demon
other
possessed. They're
thing
rolling
is-
around on the floor."
Exactly,
You
and
know.
not every priest is trained to do exorcisms. That's, everyone thinks, oh, it's a Catholic priest, they can do an exorcism.
No,
It's
it's not as
true.
common as you think. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
And having the church actually believe you. The one we did downstate where was demonic, and that was the one with the girl with her arm behind her back. This person had reached out to, now she was not religious, wasn't even baptized.
Okay.
This is the one I was on the phone with 3 hours, or for 3 months, trying to have her have a belief in something.
Mhm.
But she reached out to 3 different religious organizations, and one of them was a Catholic church, and no one was willing to help her.
Okay. Maybe they just did not simply want to get involved because she was not of the faith, or maybe they thought this was some kind of a hoax, or
It could be, and that
this is
probably
some crackpot
bothers.
calling me up here, and or something, or
But she had a little 2.5-year-old daughter living with her, and how could who was affected by this? So I guess,
But I mean, when someone calls a church or something and says, "Hey, I got a demon in my house," or something, I don't know if you really take them seriously. I mean,
I mean, she didn't say I had a demon in my house, but she gave them everything that was going on, and
Mhm.
no one would help her.
Interesting.
I mean, I did an investigation at a local one last fall, and they had contacted a priest to come in and they were having, I will not say it was demonic activity. It was bad activity, okay, that was actually manifested by someone living at the house. So they brought it in. But they contacted a priest, and when the priest, they didn't tell them ahead of time why they wanted the house blessed, which I think is wrong. But when they got there, they told the priest before he went in there, hey, you know, this is what's going on. He broke out into a sweat, did not want to go in. And they're like, dude, you're here, can you? I guess he was not even in the house 5 minutes.
He just opened the back door, threw the holy water in, and hightailed it, shut the door, and said, I'm out of here.
Yeah, and it was not a big place, but it was like out.
I was going to say, I know a lot of people, I don't know if I guess they still do it, but I know in the past, I know a lot of people, you'd sell a home, you'd move into a new home, they would get a priest to come in and bless the house.
I actually had someone contact me last month, and I got to get in contact with them because they're actually selling a family house because their mom is moving to another place, and they've always felt stuff growing up in the house, and they contacted me to see if I would do the cleansing.
Why would they, now if they're moving out, why would they be concerned about the cleansing?
They wanted to do it for the people moving in, which I thought was very nice.
So all this time they've lived in this home for I don't know how many years or whatever, and they were fine with it, but they're leaving and then they want to...
Grew up in the house, always send something, nothing bad, but just always send something, and they want to clean it for the new people.
Well, that's very thoughtful.
I thought so.
Yeah. That's very thoughtful of them. I can't understand the reasoning. I mean, well, apparently whatever it was not bothering them that much.
It wasn't bad. They just, you know, and the thing is, you know, people think, oh, you got activity in your house. 90%, probably 95% of the time, it's someone who's lived there in the past or a family member, and 90% of the time it's not bad.
Now, sometimes too, though, if you think the family moves, the people move out of the house or whatever, do you think the activity might just stop on its own?
It
you know,
could.
the people aren't there. Maybe they wanted to relate to these people, and then, you know.
It could, and the activity could go with them to the new house, too.
They can carry it with. Yeah, sure. That's how it works, yeah. You just don't know how it's going to go. Huh. Interesting stuff we got here. Okay, what to you, now one of your, out of all the investigations you've done and everything, what to you is one of the ones you like to talk about the most, that you're most proud of?
Probably any one of the cleansings, because it's
so any of them, you're like them, you're good with
it's
them
so
all.
rewarding being
Okay.
able to help somebody when they're at wit's end, can't stand to be in their own home, and they don't know where to turn.
So have you ever had anybody call you and say, you know, you've come in, you've done the cleansing and everything, but I'm still not feeling right about this?
No, they are all...
No, that's it. So after it's done, it's done. It's a 100% thing.
Those are
and
my
it's,
references.
Okay, all right. So that's your good testimonies, huh?
Yeah, every one of them would say, you know. And the thing is, too, when you spend that much time in someone's home, whether it's just over an overnight like that with the cleansing, they're like family when you leave. And, you know, my clients now, they're not my clients anymore. Now they're my friends. And they know that 5 years from now, if something's happened in their house, they can call, and we'll be back.
Now let's put the shoe on the other foot. Now what about you? So someone calls you and they say, okay, Colleen, we've got some trouble going on here. There's something going on in this house here. We understand you do this. We've seen your website, or we've, you know, some friend called us or something. Now, how would you investigate them? Do your homework on them to see if they're legitimate, or are they just hoaxing me and they want me to come in here and see what this is all about? They're just doing this for entertainment. They want to see what one of these cleansing is. Is this like good Saturday night entertainment for us, or are they serious about this?
Okay, a couple things. Remember, I have gifts. I could usually read that.
Okay.
Okay. If I couldn't read it on the phone, I would read it the moment I knocked on their door.
Yeah. Now, okay. So you show up at the door and you say, "No, this is something going." You
But
slam the
let's go
door and you
back.
don't go in there.
I'm going to take it back a step,
Okay.
though. We have a client information form. They have to complete that before I'll do an investigation.
So you have to fill out.
And it's lengthy.
Okay.
And it's personal.
How many pages?
Like 3.
So you get a lot of information out
I
of this.
mean, we need to know everything, you know. I can't help you if you don't get... It's full disclosure. I'm like, lie to me, we will not come out and do an
So
investigation.
your first step is by reading this information from, you can kind of tell if they're faking this or not by the way they're answering the questions. You kind of know what to look for on this, okay?
And if I went to someone's door and felt that it was a farce, or they were just... I'd call the investigation.
And say, no, we're not doing this.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened to you? Or has everybody been serious about it?
Well, I had one client that was semi-serious.
Okay.
You know, you got to help me. We got to get rid of this stuff in my house. You know, figure out what it is I want it gone. And we got there, and it's like, well, it can stay if it will leave my girlfriend alone and not bother her anymore.
Bothering my girlfriend.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm like, well, you know what? It's You want them to stay or you want them to leave?
Yeah, this isn't a halfway thing.
There's
Yeah.
no.
You can
yeah.
stay if you don't bother my girlfriend, but if you start
Yeah.
bothering her, you got to leave. No, it's not a halfway
No,
thing. Yeah, yeah.
So I'm like, here's the information. This is what we did. Here's the report. Do what you want.
Interesting stuff.
And after that point, it's like, I really don't think we'll come back.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we've given you all the information. We've provided your report.
That's what I'm saying. Do you ever, you get somebody that just says, oh, they're not charging us for this. This is free. They're doing this. Let's just call them in, and this will be like our entertainment. Let's see what this is all about. We've never had a cleansing done here, and let's see what this,
Well, you can't
this
just-
incense and holy water and oil and all this mumbo jumbo is about here. Let's see what this
You can't
is.
just call us for a cleansing.
Mhm.
We're going to do an investigation at your house
So that would be first before you do the
We're
cleansing.
going to be the one to decide.
Okay. All right. I gotcha. Interesting stuff. Well, this has been a very fast hour, and we could have probably gone on for another hour, and you will have to come back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, we'll be glad to have you come back here again. Colleen Carroll has been our guest for the last hour here with the All-Seeing Paranormal Investigative Team. And there again, now, if you want to put your plugs in for your club there, for your
Absolutely.
organization there, if someone is interested in becoming a team member,
Or just is looking for information, our website is www.allseepara.com. We are on Facebook as All Seeing Paranormal. You can call me at 708-439-1818. And my email is colleen@allseepara.com.
Colleen at allseepara.com. Para.com. Okay, great. So now if they want to get this information, it'll be up on YouTube, it'll be on the Windy City Network. You can get that off of there, and give Colleen a call if you think you've got something going on, or if you think this would be something for you. You'd like to get interested in paranormal work and do this with a serious investigator, someone that knows what they're doing here and doesn't do this just to play around for entertainment. Colleen would be the person.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on, Colleen. It's been a joy. Yeah, it's wonderful having you here. Oh, and then also, too, the plugs for the Paranormal Conference, which is a while away. It's in October.
Yeah, it's October 10th and 11th at Maureen Valley Community College.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 2-day event. You'll have paranormal teams there. You'll have psychics there, mediums, healers, Reiki,
Mediums, larges, and extra larges.
palm readers.
Palm readers, yeah.
I
I was there.
I know a really good one.
Yeah, I was there last year. I don't know if I'm the one you're talking about, but I was there
You
last
are.
year. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was a lot of fun doing it. Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Another friend of ours, John Gruba, does aura readings. He's also a Reiki
Aura
master.
readings. You're gonna have to point him out to me if we do this again this
He
year.
was at the table right next to me.
Oh, I was on this side of you. He's on the other side.
John was on the other side.
Okay. All right. I know who he was then. Yeah.
Can you tell that I did the seating for that?
You had something to do with it. Yeah,
Yes, I had
yeah.
all my friends all around
It was a lot of
me.
fun. I've always resisted doing those paranormal conferences and that, but you made me that great offer. I just couldn't refuse. They didn't charge me for the table, so I had to do it, and it was a lot of fun. It really was. I have to admit. And thanks again to Mr. Tom Cameron for allowing me to do that. Thank you so much. Just a little plug from me. Like I mentioned earlier at the beginning of this broadcast, we had the Columbian Exposition Tour in H.H. Holmes. That was with the Summit Park District coming up on May 30th, which will be the weekend after Memorial Day. So it won't be this weekend, it'll be the next Saturday. We'll be doing that tour with the South Central Stickney Park District, and I think they've got some seats open because we go with a bigger busload there. We go with about 25 people. So if you're interested in doing that tour, give them a ring at 708-496, not 1012, 708-496-8292. 708-496-8292, and you can get a seat for that tour, and we'll do it. It's not a whole lot of paranormal. We do talk some about H.H. Holmes, but mostly it's about historical, the Columbian Exposition and the history of that and everything like that, and that would also be in partnership with Mr. Ray Johnson, who has the Friends of the White City, tours there that they give by the Museum of Science and Industry. So come on with us there and have a lot of fun doing that. It's about time for us to wrap. Mr. John DeVita, thank you so much, sir, for allowing me to come into your studio and do this show. And thank you, Colleen Carroll. What a wonderful conversationalist and a wonderful guest. And thank you so much for an entertaining hour.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you for coming on. Please come back anytime you want. You're welcome to come back here anytime. And John, thanks for allowing me to do these shows, and we'll see you all next month. Thanks, folks, for listening. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to Paranormal Radio with Bob Trexek from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich. Paranormal Radio was directed by John DeVita And the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network is Mr. John Chicana. And the radio station manager for WRHS FM Norwich is Mr. Kevin Zeflik. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Monday, May the 18th, the year 2015. Until next time, be safe, and thanks for listening. Have a good day. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM, Norwich, Illinois.